Hello, hello, Brian here again, and I wanted to share a screencast today and specifically look at what my first day looks like, what lesson I like to go with for my history classes. And so I've used this for multiple years, probably since 2012, and I've used it from 6th grade all the way through with 11th graders, and it works effectively with all these different age ranges. And so this is coming from an amazing resource for history teachers called SHEG. If you're not familiar, this is the Stanford History of Education group. Really great resources that you should check out and definitely be the topic of a later video. But for now, we are going to look into this lesson, and so there's a few reasons why I love using this, and I'll show you some of these things here in this screencast. On the one hand, it's an excellent way of getting to know your students, and so we'll see exactly how this lesson sets that up. Secondly, it is a great way to expose students to some of the main topics and main themes and big ideas of what history is and what historians do. Now, this year it has a third purpose. I've taken this lesson that normally came in a more print format, and I've digitized it because Canvas is going to be a huge part of our setup and structure and course layout for this year, and I want my students to be able to navigate it. So right off the bat, I've taken this, and it's going to kind of be a crash course into how to navigate Canvas. And so I'll show you some of these things today, and what you're looking at right now is just my home page for my course. It's not fully set up. I'm definitely going to have a welcome video here and some other things that I want to use to personalize, but this is the way it's laid out as of right now. At the time of recording, I still have a week to go before the first day, so still some time. So just showing you what students are going to see. Clicking here on the daily agendas, this is the calendar, and from here they'll navigate. Now our first day is going to be the 24th, so they click on that date, and this is going to take them straight here to these embedded Google Slides. Now, so this is the layout that I have. Students will click here on Monday, and then they see the lesson. And so really, I've got it set up so that they have their warm-up, the mini lesson and work session here, and then the closing here. So if students can't really navigate Canvas very well, this Google slide will really help them. So specifically, let's just go in and look at this warm-up. And so we start off here with why we should study history. And so we basically present to students this idea and this concept of what is history, what makes up history, and asking them in a discussion post to explain the reasons why they think we should study history or the reasons why they think we shouldn't study history. And so that's set up as a discussion post. I am a big Calvin and Hobbes fan, so I try to incorporate some of these cartoons where possible. Now, students will complete that warm-up, and then the next thing they will see, they can either navigate here, they can go back to that home page if they'd like, that Google slide. Now, what I have for the Snapshot mini lesson, this is integrated, Canvas integrating here with Nearpod, and so I've just set up a little idea here where students are going to select some of the topics that they enjoy looking at the most. And so my intentionality is to show them that looking at world history, we're going to incorporate all of these things like sports, fashion, business, law, medicine, technology, all these things. So trying to help connect to student interest. Now what I have here is a single slide where we talk about why we're going to study history and how history is you see the quote there from the National Standards for History, that history is a common memory that a society shares. And so I have here about a 5-minute audio clip that I created here through Nearpod. From that, students are going to get their instructions for the Snapshot autobiography. So what this is basically students are going to create a snapshot of their life. And so they're going to pick three events that they think are the most influential events that have ever happened to them. And they're going to relate those in a narrative format. So the reason I love this is right off you get to know the pivotal, crucial things that students feel have shaped their lives. And students are going to be really open and personal, and at times this is going to be gut-wrenching. To one of the first things that you know about a student is some of, maybe even tragic events that have taken place, and so just being able to a student to let you into their life in that way is so vital for them to feel that connection and for you to understand where they're coming from. So it's going to be something. I mean, you see students really first day, and even students that don't like to write, they're just going at it because they want to tell you some of their story. And so the questions to consider down there are really important. And this is where we're going to get into that historical thinking. Why did you pick the events you did? And helping students through discussion flesh out, what does it look like? Why do historians pick certain events? Why do authors of documents and narrators of events from the past, why do they choose to tell certain things and leave out other details? How do we connect the dots between the gaps of these events? What else might have happened? So what evidence do you have to prove that it happened? Do you have any kind of documentation? Do you have any kind of proof? Do you have other witnesses that would offer credibility and corroborate your story? And would someone else remember this event differently? And I think that's an important question to consider, perspective and point of view when looking at history. And then I have here a little poll question to wrap up, and trying to help students understand the connection between their own history and history in general and how those two things can relate. Now, once they're done with that mini lesson, they will begin their Snapshot autobiography, and this is the work session. And so what we have here is, if you've not seen this before, this is Google Assignments, embedding these Google Assignments into Canvas. And so this is what the teacher view students are going to see, obviously, the template that I've provided for them for creating their snapshot. So I wanted to show you what that looks like. And again, by the way, if you're interested in any of this, I would love to share this resource and lesson with you in digital or print format if you don't have access. This is the title slide. They're going to put their title, and they're going to be able to pick their theme. And so sample title, name, this is where they're going to put their snapshot, and I've offered a prompt to include details like who, where, when, and the importance of events, and encouraging them to use at least one visual or photograph. And this is going to be a two-part lesson, two-day lesson, so if they need to recover some photographs or evidence or some kind of visual from home, they can do that. So then snapshot 2, snapshot 3, and then on the last bit, this is where they tell about themselves, and so that kind of self-narration. What do you think is important? What does a reader need to know about you in order to make sense of this story? So that is the sort of the work session component of the lesson. And then we move into the fourth part of our lesson component, and this is a Flipgrid summary. And so again, Flipgrid can now be embedded here within Canvas, so really awesome to be able to kind of keep things locked in here. And so you can see here I have the Snapshot Autobiography Reflection, and it says here talking about different accounts of the past can differ, can disagree, and what you remember might not be what someone else remembers. And so our work this year is to figure out how we can gather enough evidence to get the clearest picture possible of what happened in the past. And so I'm asking them to reflect on these two of the following questions. Why did you choose certain events and not others? That selection process. Was it difficult to select events? Why or why not? And think of someone who also remembers one of your snapshots. How might their memory be different than yours? So those alluding to those questions that I posed early on. And so students here can record their response right here within Canvas, and yeah, so that kind of takes a walk through the lesson. I'm really excited to see what students are able to do. I'm excited to make this in a more digital format and see how students run with that, especially with their Flipgrids and incorporating these. So this really exposes students to some of the main resources that we're going to be looking at: Canvas, looking at embedded Google Docs, Nearpods, and Flipgrid. Those four things there are going to be major cornerstones of how we're going to operate, especially in a blended learning environment. So thank you for watching, and if you have any more questions, I will link SHEG down below. And like I said, if you are interested in accessing this resource, please contact me, comment, or write me on Twitter, DM me on Twitter, and I will be happy to share these resources with you. So with that being said, goodbye.